Disabled since the age of 8, she has transformed her personal challenges into purpose, becoming a passionate accessibility advocate and a beacon of hope for others. Her journey reminds us that resilience is not just a buzzword. It's a mindset, it's a community, and the way forward. Today's episode is especially powerful because it speaks directly to anyone who has faced adversity and wondered, can I still thrive? Welcome to the Minute Mastery Podcast, a conversational productivity and time management podcast where busy authors and entrepreneurs are inspired to create time for what truly matters. I'm your host, Ngozi Edema. I'm a time management coach, writer, and entrepreneur. Here, you are encouraged to turn your minutes into milestones and to create at least 1 hour a day working on your goals without feeling overwhelmed. And since you are here, hello mamas and papas in the house. Are you looking for the next book for that special kid in your life? Here is a book recommendation for you. Meet Freddy in Freddy and the Veggies, an adventure where veggies are superheroes, fun, colorful, and a parent's secret weapon. Say goodbye to veggie battles at the dinner table because in Freddy and the Veggies, kids learn that healthy eating can be an exciting adventure and they can still hang out with their sweet friends too. Fun characters and lively illustrations available in the Kindle store and on paperback formats. So today's guest is Jenna Udenberg, an inspiring author, a disability advocate, and accessibility educator. She was diagnosed with juvenile arthritis at just 7 years of age. Jenna has faced life challenges with incredible resilience and determination. Thanks for joining us today in the Minute Mastery Podcast, Jenna.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, having a disability can leave anyone in a fluster. Even more so for an 8-year-old. You lived with a disability since the age of 8. Can you take us back in time? What shifted for you? How did it shape your view of what is possible?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, this all started back in the late 80s for me. Life was very different. My disease took control very quickly. So I was diagnosed at age 7, but I was in a wheelchair by age 8. And as a little kid, you just don't know any better, right? Because you haven't lived life yet. You don't really have much to compare it to. I knew I was in a lot of pain. I knew my life had really changed because I had all these adults in my life that none of my peers or friends had in their lives, whether it was doctors, physical therapists, phlebotomists, rad techs that took all your x-rays. So I had a plethora of adults coming into my life, some that created joy, many that created pain, whether it was short-term, long-term. My relationships at school were semi-different, but again, as a first grader going into second grade, you don't know much different. In second grade, I missed more days of school than I actually attended. And I categorize a lot of my elementary years as like good or bad. And that all comes back to my diagnosis. And so much of your life, including my family's and, our immediate family and circle of support, it changes so much for them as well. So for so long in my life, it was like, oh, when Jenna got sick. Oh, this was before Jenna got sick, or this was after Jenna got sick. And that's just kind of the psychology around, any disability, especially a childhood one. But years later, decades later, I was like, cancer survivors honor that date. And so I kind of flipped it on its head and I got my medical files and I found out my date of diagnosis and now I celebrate it. So February 25th, 1988, for many it would be this horrendous day that changed my life in a negative way forever. And that's not the case. I became who I am today because of my disability, with my disability, not necessarily in spite of. For me, there's no such thing as overcoming a disability. Because that's an ableist kind of approach to it. For me, it's living with it, embracing it, celebrating it, because it is a part of me. It's not all of me, by any means, but it's a part of me. It's a part of who I am. It's a part of making me who I am today. And so, yeah, I dealt with discrimination. I dealt with oppression. I dealt with bullying, all the negative things I dealt with. From kids, it made sense because they just didn't understand that world. But from adults that should know better, at least from a little kid standpoint or a high school standpoint, and even college, that's the hard part to get over. It's the others. It's being othered because I'm different, but then it's also, I can get over all of your differences. Why can't you get over mine? Why do you keep stumbling over the things that I've come to acknowledge and embrace in who I am? So, yeah. So, and growing up in rural Minnesota, that was, probably another challenge because things aren't as readily accessible here. Things aren't as proactive or progressive sometimes just because it doesn't have the infrastructure. It doesn't have the financial support. It doesn't have all the things that, maybe metropolises or urban areas have. So yeah, there's a lot of interconnectedness in my story for sure.
Thanks for sharing your story. And it's sad that people would discriminate against someone with a disability. Even children, naturally, we all have the instinct to help someone in difficult situations. Children also show love to people who have difficult situations. So it's kind of hard to see when both children and adults discriminate against a person with disability. It's really sad. So, sometimes when you are not in someone's shoes, you don't know where it hurts. So you are a strong advocate for accessibility. What are some common misconceptions people have about disability and capability just because they are not in your shoes?
Yeah. The first one that I love talking about is that disability is not a bad word. So much of our society and in the whole world, depending on cultural beliefs or religious beliefs or just not having experience of being around others with disabilities, it can become a very negative or stigma situation. And yet, in a lot of my writing as a columnist and as a published author in those kinds of spaces and as a public speaker, it's breaking down those walls so people can see the similarities. And it's also just being frank and being honest with, and I can only speak for myself, right? So I don't speak for all disabled people. I don't speak for all people with juvenile arthritis. But for myself, I find that words are so powerful. And it's so telling when the American population, when there's 29% of Americans that identify as being disabled, we know, at least in our community and culture, that there has to be even more Americans who are disabled, but they don't personally identify as that because of the stigma and because so much of the world sees disability as a bad word. And because we still, are in spaces where the R word is okay or, even handicap. For me, I do not like that word. I'm not a Gulf term. I still say it because that's what I grew up with, right? Like, oh, I need to go park in handicap parking or there's not a handicap spot available. And it's like, no, we're not a Gulf term, right? So for me, I'd rather say, I need to go find accessible parking or I need to go find disability parking. So a lot of it is just flipping the script. And I'd say in the last year or two, I've made a very conscious effort of also just saying like, hey, you haven't, wheeled a mile in my chair, or some of those other things that bring in culture language to maybe out of culture experiences and then having that conversation. So for me, I say a lot of times like disabled people because I'm putting the disability pride into my language instead of always saying like people with disabilities. But then when I'm out in non-disabled culture or in, more politically correct spaces, it is better to put people first. So as somebody who is in culture, I will go between those two word, verbiage, orders, syntax, whatever right word you want to use in that. But I think, it just comes down to what our lived experiences are and what we feel comfortable with. I mean, I've been in a wheelchair for 38 years now. So there's just a comfortability for me. I've always been an open book. I've always been vulnerable about my story and about things. Not every single aspect, not every single moment, but as a general rule, because, it's part of the educator in me as well. But it's like people can't know if you're not willing to share your story about what those shoes feel like. But I think the other part is like, we also get a lot of like, oh, honey, I was in a chair for, like 3 days because I had this bump on my foot and I couldn't do this and this and this. And it's like, well, great. I'm glad that you're trying to, have that connection. But in the same respect, it's like 3 days in an old hospital chair rented from a hospital versus like 38 years, right? Like
Yeah,
we
it's
get
not the
it. People
same.
are trying, but yeah, it's not the same, right?
It's not the same. Not the
No.
same. Yeah, because that reminds me, over 20 years ago, I met a dear friend who was born disabled. She should be in her 40s now. She became disabled at birth because of some mistake with the medical team that oversaw her birth. So they made some mistakes and that led to her disability. And very early when we became friends, there's one thing she let me know. That's why it's good to be an open book, like you describe it. Let people know how you want to be treated. So she told me, I don't like being pitied. And ever since, I don't pity people who are disabled. I treat them as equals because that's what she told me. Before, when I see anyone in a wheelchair, the first emotion from me is pity. And she said, I don't like being pitied. I want you to treat me the way you would treat this other person here. It's something that I'm working on, but each time I always remember her voice. Treat me the way you would treat the other person there. My disability does not make me less human. It just means that I can't do certain things that others can do. It's just like even people who are able, we cannot all do everything. There are certain things we can't do. I can't play golf. I don't even like this sport. I can play basketball, but should anyone pity me for not being able to golf?
Right. Only those that are handicapped. Oh, sorry, I had to go there.
No. So even with your being able, there are many things we can do. I can crochet. I have lovely friends who crochet and they make amazing patterns and amazing stuff. I can't do that. Should they pity me because I can't do what they do? So it's kind of changed my perspective and my mindsets. I no longer pity them. I treat them as equals. And so it's a good thing to educate people on that a disability does not stop you from being a human.
Correct.
You can still attain and do many other stuff. You may not be able to do anything. I don't expect you to run, for instance,
Right.
because it's not within what your capability can do at this point. But that does not mean that you don't have something in your head that you can offer to the rest of us. So it's an awareness that we all need to have. And thank you for sharing it with us. We touched earlier on learned helplessness, this idea that people, after facing repeated adversity, stop believing in their ability to make a change. Have you experienced that personally, or have you seen others experience learned helplessness?
Yeah, I would say it is so hard when you're living the lived experience of disability and trying to advocate and create change and be a change agent in that world. It's very exhausting. And so I've seen it a lot of times, and I think that's sometimes why the disability community and culture moving forward has struggles because you work so hard. We're given so much time in a day, just like our non-disabled counterparts, right? But a lot of times because we face chronic fatigue or we face chronic pain or those kinds of things, like we just have less spoons, as we say in our culture, in a given day. Maybe you as a non-disabled person get 24 spoons. While me with my disability on this day, I get 8 spoons. But I still have to live life like you do. I still have to do my jobs. I still have to take care of my body. I still need to nourish myself. I still need to have fun and put time into those relationships. And so sometimes the advancement of our culture, the advancement of making sure our rights are being met or being honored or being restored, or the dignity is being restored, it starts to fall apart, because if certain leaders need to take time away, or we just face burnout, because when you're facing your own disease and your own cycles and your own life needs, it gets to be a lot. And yet, that's why we need to have amazing support systems, amazing allies, amazing opportunities to share our stories. So we keep getting that new wind in our sails, right? And we keep creating those relationships and that tapestry in life to say, we are important and we are valued and we are, important. And yeah, it's a hard balance, but I think eventually we get there through the help of others.
I like the fact that you mentioned through the help of others, community supports, like getting other people to understand and then encourage one to keep pushing that it is possible to carry on in spite of failure or a disability. Just because you couldn't do it yesterday doesn't mean you can't do it today.
Right. And at least for me, I should speak for myself, facing imposter syndrome, it's hard when you're putting your story out there so much. And then you just face it like, who am I? Like, why should I keep doing this work? Why should I tell this? And for me, it's typically a fear of success. I don't have a fear of failure. I have a fear of success, because then it's what's going to be those expectations that are put upon me from me, because I have a high expectations for myself, but then also the expectations of others. And sometimes that's always a hard part, because non-disabled culture, which is primarily what I grew up in, is all about productivity, right? Your value and your worth are based on how many degrees and letters do you have behind your name? How many zeros do you have in your checkbook? How many books have you written? How many lives have you impacted? Right? Like we base it on all this external stuff. But if you're embraced within disability culture, it's what are you as a whole human bringing to this table? We don't care what needs you have, because we all have needs. And I can help you with this because I've got a great left hand, but you can help me with that because you've got a great right hand, or, whatever it is. And so that's what I love about being in two different cultures, because you just get to learn from each other, and it's almost like you're translating between the two a lot. But then it's also hard to keep track in your own mind of like, wait, which version of Jenna gets to show up today? And then it's like, no, all of Jenna gets to show up today, because this is who I am. This is my experience, and none of it is right. None of it is wrong. It all just is.
Thank you. I know you called it for the non-disabled culture, but I think that should be the standard for everybody. It is not those external things that defines us.
Mhm.
And that is what pushes a lot of us to have imposter syndrome, because of setting too much. The bar is too high. It is okay for some people to get to some really high stuff, but it's not for everybody. And just because somebody has like 8 degrees does not make them more of a human being than you are. You can still thrive even if you do not have a degree. I've seen people thrive again and again. And so we need to break that mindset that if that is your part there, it's fine, but don't allow. I know sometimes even when you're starting something new, like a business or starting like a coaching business like I have, the first thing you'll be thinking, what if people ask me what is my qualification?
Right.
But I know somebody once said to me when I attended a mastermind, he said something very profound. If you are a mom and you found a treatment for eczema because your child had eczema, and you introduce that what you found to another mom, do you need a qualification to share your knowledge with another person? No, if you're adding value, you don't need a qualification.
Don't need to go become a dermatologist.
No, you don't have to. If you can tell people why something works, that is what matters. Give them value, and that is what matters. It comes before the degree, the value that you can give. That is what people are after, not the degrees. Yeah, the degrees are important in some space, but not in every facet of human society or human life. So how can someone break free from that mindset of maybe imposter syndrome or self-doubt?
When I figure it out, I'll share. No.
I know nobody can figure it out because I get you. Yeah, it's funny, but no matter who you are,
Yeah,
even
we
the
all have it.
best of all, even the best of us, they always have imposter syndrome. They have self-doubt. Before they go and give a talk or a speaker, they have self-doubt. Will I be able to deliver? It's part of our imposter syndrome and self-doubts that, oh, I don't think I can do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
guess the one thing that I would say maybe is tangible. Like I kind of went through something this last winter and I grabbed two of my really good friends and they're my ride or dies, the people that know me the best. And I just said, I'm just struggling. So can we just take like 10 minutes and can you just take a sticky note? And I'd love if you could write 5 things that you see in me that maybe I don't see in myself. Like what would be 5 adjectives that you'd use to describe me? And it was an amazing time together because, it wasn't me being prideful and looking for that pat on the back, but it was just really like, here I am and I've been doing all this work and I'm depleted. So remind me of who I am because you know who I am. And it's been great. And as other women in my community have gone through similar things, I've shared that story a little bit, like find the people that, truly are your people, truly are your cheerleaders on your best day and on your worst day and trust them and be vulnerable. And then it's amazing to see how those relationships then come back to you because then they know, hey, Jenna's let all of her walls down around me. And I was allowed the blessing of being that person to help build her up. And now I can trust her to help me when I'm in those spaces. And it might look different, it might act different, it might be a different need. And I think that's so true in disability culture. I mean, I think so many people think they have to come and help us, that we are needy. And the reality is we all are needy. Doesn't matter if you're disabled or not. We are all needy. We are all trying to, live this rat race called life and try to thrive and try to enjoy it and find joy and peace and calm and all the things. And so it's, a part of valuing people that are different than us is also saying, hey, how can I be vulnerable to you and let you help me?
thank you. So if someone is listening right now and feels stuck in survival mode, maybe because of a disability, trauma, or just a tough season in their lives, what would you say to them?
Well, my dearest friend always tells me, go take a nap. Are you getting enough sleep? Are you truly taking care of yourself? And also for me, I know it's what is my definition of rest? And several weeks ago, a good friend of mine sent me a meme and it said something along the lines, I'm sure maybe some of the listeners and you have seen it, but it was, oh, now it kind of went away. But the gist of it was that not have you done enough to deserve rest? But have you rested enough to do your very best? And for me as a type A, I need to be superwoman and do all of these things. It was like, no, I need to rest and make sure that my body is as healthy as it can be so I can do the work that I've been called to do. And it's okay to take time off. Like when I was writing my memoir, I took 3 months off, even though the people I was working with and my book coach and all the things were like, don't do it because you'll probably not come back. I'm like, oh, no, this has been etched in my heart and in my spirit for decades. I'm going to finish this thing, but I have to tend to the things that aren't thriving, right? Like I need to be in this better headspace before I can move on. And that was the best thing. And that's kind of the advice I give to other authors that I work with and rub shoulders with, because, what you're meant to do will come out. You will make that difference. You'll make that impact. You'll leave that legacy. You'll do the work that you're supposed to do. And in order for it to be your best, you have to be rested to do the best.
Thank you. I like for you bringing up rest because it affects your efficiency and your productivity. And it's not, you don't wait to earn rest.
Right.
It's part of living. Your body deserves to rest. We were created like that, to rest. And unless you take care of you, you cannot take care of anything else.
And go drink a glass of water. If you
And go
don't
drink a
drink
glass
enough
of water.
water,
Yeah, like
we are
my
not
water.
hydrated.
Like my water. I always carry it everywhere. I need my bottle of water. If there's nothing else, this should come with me.
Right?
Thank you so much for coming to the show. Where can listeners find you, connect with you, and follow your work?
Yeah, our website is aboveandbeyondwithyou.org, and you can find us on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. You can find my book within my spokes on Amazon and wherever you find your books. It's my whole story of my memoir. It's a tapestry of pain, growth, and freedom. And you get to learn more about me. And people will be like, "Hey, Jenna, this part of your story." And I go, "Ooh, I told that part." So there's lots of interesting stories in there. And always a piece of encouragement along the way. Because as much as I get teared up, I also hope to make people laugh because we need that levity in life. So
Yes, we need laughter in our life. We need laugh.
a lot of it.
I need a lot of it. Yes, bring it on.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you very much for coming to the Minute Mastery Podcast. This conversation is a reminder that while we don't always choose our challenges, we do get to choose how we show up in the face of them. My guest today is a living proof that adversity can define us, and that accessibility isn't a favor, it's a right. So if you are in a position to offer help to someone disabled, extend kindness to them. If a story moved you, please share it with someone who would find it beneficial, someone who needs a spark of hope. And as always, keep showing up for yourself and others, because even in the smallest stories, you can find the light that can help someone else. Thanks for tuning in to the Minute Mastery Podcast. If you found this episode helpful, share it with someone who could use more time in their day. And remember to subscribe and leave us a review. Until next time, you are in control of your time, and you've got this.